The Marinade.
There's no O in Marinade. Let's try it one more time. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
The Marinade.
Marinade.
Bone marinade.
That's
The Marinade.
The Marinade. With Jason Earle. Welcome to The Marinade with Jason Earle, a free-flowing conversation about the creative process with creative people. This is episode 87, and our guest is Daryl Hance. Daryl is a singer, songwriter, and guitar player whose music means so much to me, y'all. Daryl was the original guitar player for the band Mofro, now known as JJ Grey and Mofro. That band influenced my musical education in huge ways, but it's Daryl's solo stuff that inspired us to connect and have this conversation. He has this really distinct way of playing guitar that I adore. Just a couple of licks, and I can instantly recognize a Daryl Hance tune. Describing his music is next to impossible, but it feels like the soundtrack to my life. It's swampy, it's bluesy, it's funky, it's sexy, it's soulful. And I am just so honored to have had the opportunity to record with Daryl and bring this one to you. Everyone, my conversation with Daryl Hance.
We are here together until our living ends. Don't ever wanna leave here. Hope we'll always be around.
Okay.
Awesome.
I have a couple cue balls here.
I know, right? Yeah, man. Kindred spirits. Why was I thinking about baldness the other day? Oh, somebody made a joke on Twitter about, I said, what should I get for, I got a gift card to Amazon. And somebody made a joke that I should get a mullet toupee. And it was a, it was a friend of mine, you know, and I thought that was pretty funny. And I was like, man, I can grow a damn mullet. Like, that's not my problem.
Yeah.
I just can't grow a head of hair.
Yeah, I gotta start wearing a crash helmet or something, get one of them skull cats because I hit my head on everything anymore. Right.
Oh.
And the same stuff over and over too.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's funny. Like, it's, you know, I think I was 26, I think, when I first started shaving my head, and I had a girlfriend. I went abroad for a little while, and I came back. She hadn't seen me in a while, and she was like, "Baby, it's time to let go."
Yeah. But like,
I was looking at, because you don't notice, right? Until somebody else says it. I didn't realize it. I was like, I still got hair, I'm good, and then it just wasn't growing here, and it wasn't growing here, and she was right.
Yeah. Start looking like a mangy possum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, exactly. Well, Daryl, thanks so much for doing this, man. I am stoked to talk to you.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on here, man. I've been seeing you out there and about for a while, and kind of meant to hit you up, and just and then when you did that blast there a while back about guitar players, and I was like, I figured that'd be a good opportunity. So
I'm so glad you did. You know, it's fun. It's been really fun to do this research and go back and listen to your music. The first time I saw you play guitar was with Mofro and the Jacksonville Symphony Orchestra. That was the very first time I saw you play, and that had to be like 2004 or something, like a long time ago, 5 maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, and then I've followed your career since, and I've gotten to see you play. You do your one-man band thing several times. And I mean, what I haven't gotten a chance to see, and we can get into all this too,
Mhm.
is I haven't gotten to see just you play your songs with a band. That's something that I think would be really fun. Because one of the things that I love about the thing that kind of brought us here on Twitter was that there's something so unique about the sound of Daryl Hance playing guitar, and it's something that really speaks to me. And I think I noticed it when you were in Mofro, but when on your in your solo stuff, it's so apparent, and like that essence of this very completely unique sound that hits me in a place that really nobody else's does. I mean, there's lots of guitar tones I love, and there's lots of playing styles I love, and there's lots of things I love sonically about different guitar players, but I just don't know anybody who does it the way that you do. And so I'm really glad that we're having this conversation, and I'm excited to kind of unpack that.
Oh yeah, shit, man. Thanks. Glad you dig it. I just play it. But I was always like early on. I mean, before I got into blues and that whole and the old school funk and soul music and all that, I really gravitated toward guitar players like The Edge and Andy Summers and Jimmy Page and Jimi Hendrix, and people who had really a visual aspect to their playing, you know, just like they painted these landscapes and stuff with their guitar. And I was always drawn to that type of vibe, or what, you know, whatever you want to call it, sound. So, or, you know, utilizing effects and different things, using space and all that and whatnot. So
that's really interesting that you named those particular guitar players, and what you're describing there makes a ton of sense to me. But when I listen, I'm hearing much more of the blues, and I'm hearing much more of the obvious swampy influence to some things. And that idea of space is something that I aspire to in my own art, whatever it is, if it's me writing or playing guitar or whatever, because I feel like it's so hard, especially, you know, for me at least, like I'm constantly just wanting to like say stuff, you know, do stuff. So just sitting is hard sometimes, but it's so powerful.
Yeah, so I think it come from me, as far as it comes from me, probably just being a little bit on the lazy side or laid back. You know, I mean, I'm not like laid back in everyday life. I'm very active. I'm always doing something. The brain's always trolling around, but I guess more so in my demeanor is kind of more, you know, that way, so it comes through in that way, you know.
Man, that's wonderful. You know, one of the interesting things about doing this research was, as I prepared for this conversation, I didn't realize that you kind of got a relatively late start in playing, first of all, playing guitar specifically, and then singing and writing songs. Can you talk a little bit about that, and like what those moments looked like in terms of making the decision to say, hey, I'm picking up the guitar, and then realizing maybe you had some promise at this? And can you kind of walk us through that a little bit? Because I found that super interesting.
Yeah, I started, first thing I really gravitated to is drums when I was about 11 or 12. I had a friend that had a drum set, and I was just mesmerized. And he played in a school band. I just got mesmerized by it, and everything was about drums. And then my dad traded a shotgun to one of his buddies for a drum set, and that lasted about a year and a half. And then he got his shotgun back and gave the dude his drum set back because he got tired of hearing it. So fast forward to my last year in high school, it was my dad that kept, why don't you play guitar? Probably because guitar is a lot quieter. So I took my tax return check, and when I was 17 in high school, and got my first guitar. Then 6 or 8 months later, I was playing with friends in the band. We just happened to be hanging out at a mutual friend's house, and met up with another guy, and we just ended up forming a band and had a band together for the next 3 years on and off. And then in 2000, let me back up a little bit, 1990, I hooked up with JJ, and we had another band, more of like an alternative rock type band, like in the early 90s. And then latter part of that, Mofo evolved out of that years later. Then, but even before like Mofo had started to kind of take off, and we had kind of started growing in different directions as far as him honing his songwriting and me discovering, hey, I can write songs too. And I contributed a few musical ideas early on, but most of the time I was touring with his band. I was writing my own songs and coming home doing demos, kind of gearing toward what I'm doing now. Anyway, just the only reason I really stayed as long as I did with that situation is a we're friends, and B, it was kind of it's already in motion, so it's kind of one of those things. And okay, at some point you gotta drop off, either do it or the songs just keep coming. So for me it's just kind of a slow evolution. The only thing I know is like once I hit about 14 years old, I knew what I wanted to do, like music for a living. I just didn't know, what does that look like? You just kind of got to figure it out. So
I think that's amazing, man. Cause like first of all, just to know that early, I think is amazing. Like I thought I was going to be the shortstop for the Cincinnati Reds when I was 14, and there was no evidence that I was capable of that, but that's what I still thought, and life has gone in so many different directions for me since then. But like to know that even before you were really playing music.
It's kind of weird.
How does that happen?
I don't know. I just made that connection. It's like, that's where I fit. I had no musical upbringing or anything. No one in my family. I had a grandfather that played a guitar, but I was never around him really. So, and an uncle that played guitar, but again, I was never really around him. So I learned guitar more from friends, just mutual friends, just friends and mutual friends that played guitar. Just always ended up around people that could play, just people that could already play and learn from there.
And again, like, and maybe this speaks to just the fact that you knew you were going to do it, but to start playing that young and then to form that first band with your buddies, I feel like is a pretty bold move. Is that just like, hey, this is a thing I had to do? Or is that like some of the hubris of youth? Or like, how did you?
It was kind of just, I had just gotten out of high school and I already knew what I wanted to do. And just, we would all kind of meet up this mutual friend's house on Friday just to drink beer and stuff. And me and my buddy and, another friend of a friend ended up there and he could already play guitar and had original songs he wrote. And we ended up, man, let's, talking just like every other band. And, the history of music is creating, just friends start playing together. Then, a year later, we had a pretty good demo tape and never went anywhere with it. And actually just rediscovered a demo tape about 5 years ago. And it's actually quite so, man, this is pretty good for four knuckleheads that just got out of high school, just in Jacksonville, Florida in 1987, totally off the music map. It was kind of like a post-punk rock band kind of thing. It was influenced by U2 and all that, like the Clash and stuff like that. But it just weird, man, how the life is, man, just kind of unfolds. And well, for me anyway, just where you don't, now I have a pretty strong vision of things, but back then the only thing I knew, I wanted to play music. I'm not even sure if I answered your question, but
you have beautifully. There had to be like a sense of, and this now in your music, it very much comes through that you're in touch with your intuition. And or at least that's what I interpret when I hear it, your music. And I wonder if at that time you had that same sense.
Yeah, I did. And I kind of lost that over the years because, and I think that's more from playing with people that had their own vision as strong. And I just play, I was more the side man. So you kind of you default to somebody else's decision making and stuff like that. And that can, if that can mess with you if you have a vision, eventually it kind of, you either got to follow what's in your head or follow what's in somebody else's head, and following what's in somebody else's head wasn't working for me anymore, or at least that in that capacity. Even back when I was playing in other bands with other people, I still had ideas and the urge to do it, to songwrite and stuff like that. But I kind of suppressed it because it's like, well, he can already write songs, or he can already sing. I didn't even discover I could actually sing until I was 27, 26, 27. Wow. I messed around with writing lyrics, but it's like more poetry kind of stuff. But as far as music, from the first time I picked up a guitar, it didn't take me long, and I was already kind of off. I can remember one time when I was 17, about 6 months after I bought a guitar, a friend had a digital delay pedal, and I plugged into it and just sat up for about 6 hours all night, where everybody else is passed out, drunk, and stoned, and just played with this delay pedal all night. It was like my first entrance into that channeling that creativity into something. Just like, wow, this is awesome.
I love that. Oh, I love that story. So I love that. I love that story, and I find it inspiring that you weren't really writing or singing. Well, specifically singing, you said, but also not really writing all that much until your late 20s. I mean, I find that incredibly inspiring. Not that that's old by any means, but it is old to start that kind of work. Was there a moment where you kind of felt like, okay, wait, I'm pretty good at this and I can do this?
Yeah, I was just, I'd had, even as young as like, I think, how was I? Maybe 20, I got my first 4-track and started putting down musical ideas and playing, recording and all. And even before that, I was run through a mixer into a tape deck and, coming up with riffs and making little musical ideas. I've totally just zoided on that question. I was like,
no, I get it. My question was, I never hit the light questions. I think that's what happens sometimes. What I wonder is if you had a sense of, you start writing songs a little bit later. If you had a sense, if there was a moment where you went, I'm pretty good at writing songs, I could make my own records of my own songs.
Oh yeah.
There was like a moment, or what led to you feeling like you could do that? Because you mentioned kind of being, you didn't use the word creatively stifled, but that's kind of what I'm interpreting, that you were sort of following somebody else's vision.
Yeah, that I'd always contribute, to the projects I was in, is contributing music. I always had musical ideas and riffs and music. And then in 1996, is there 96, 97? I think right around in there, I was again recording demo, making up songs, music, and picked up the microphone and just started kind of, bumbling along with it. And the next thing I know, I just locked into this song, this lyric line, and kind of blew my mind. It's just like, and I'm sure a lot of artists and stuff, the songwriters have that moment where, whoa, shit, what's this? But yeah, that was a pretty big revelation for me right there. That was a game changer for everything. But it took me a while to kind of plug, get a handle on it. The first 2 songs that come out of my head, actually one of them I just kind of revamped it recently and turned it into, kind of updated it. And the other one ended up on my first record, Hallowed Ground, song Washing Us Away. And I probably rewrote the lyrics about 100 times before I just demoed it over and over through the years, kept messing with it till finally got it, in its state. But yeah, it was 96 or 97, right around in there. Pretty heavy moment.
That's amazing. You mentioned something a second ago that just made me think, and this may be just self-indulgent because I like talking about North Florida and Jacksonville specifically, but was there like in 86, you mentioned, you were talking about, playing music in 86 and you were playing more, you were inspired more by, say, U2, for example. What was the scene? I kind of have my head around the scene. I'm 40. And so I kind of have my head around the scene in Jacksonville the last 20 years or so. I've spent a decade on and off in Jacksonville. What was the music scene like there? I mean, and were you hanging with musicians that were doing all kinds of stuff? And what was that looking like in the 80s?
Yeah, it's a whole different animal nowadays, and even the past 20 years. But in there was a lot of, there mostly is practice rooms. There used to be a practice room you could rent out down at the what was that street? It's down there just north of downtown. It's right off of Edison, and I think it's Edison and Margaret. But it was there's some other building there now. They've knocked it down. It used to be Halbert, something like waterproofing company. And in the same building, there's a couple of old refrigerators, but they gutted them, and it's just an empty shell of a room. There's a couple of rooms down there you can rent, and there was all kind of bands over the years back then that would rent those rooms and practice. For years, we'd practice out in McClenny, but there was a couple clubs, Einstein and Go-Go at the beach, and there was a Metropolis, which kind of, I think it morphed into Milk Bar later on. I'm not sure if that's the same owner or not, but there's a couple little spots like that, but they were always kind of short-lived. So most of that Jacksonville scene there was kind of a lot of it was in practice rooms and places like that. And there was a lot of really cool bands around, and whether anybody knew it or not, I kind of go into detail on that on the first band I had that I was talking about, First Crusade, with other friends right after high school. I put the demo on my YouTube page, and there's a thing I wrote in the description section on there that goes kind of in detail a little bit about the environment. I'll forward a link to you so you don't have to look for it, but
that'd be great.
I kind of go into detail about. There's a lot of cool bands. There's Knock Knock, Future Call, and Raven One. Who were some of the other ones? There was a Census. They were around that, but that was more like early 90s. Trying to think, and there was a lot of the Ray, Stevie Stiletto was around, but he's the one that he got kind of out of Jacksonville and went to the West Coast and around to other places. But Jacksonville was very insular back then. There wasn't a lot of places to play. There was a few small hole in the walls, and nothing like it is today. It's a whole different
thing now, man.
There was only, I think, 600,000-700,000 people in Jacksonville. Maybe it might have just been cracking 1 million in the whole, Nassau, Duval, St. John's, Clay, Baker County area back then. It may have been pushing 1 million, but probably more like the high 100,000. It's not like it's way up there now.
Yeah. So how did you, if that, I think that's so interesting when I think about musicians, coming up, folks that listen to this show are all across the country, all around the world, but especially all across the country in many different environments. And so when you're coming up in a scene like that, where there really aren't that many places to play, like what kind of keeps you moving and keeps you thinking, hey, this is something that I can make, a life out of?
Yeah, probably just, watching MTV and listening to the radio back then.
Oh, wow.
Of course, the radio back then in Jacksonville was terrible.
I bet.
Rock 105 was cool, but it's the same playlist every,
it was
same
I can promise you it was worse in Ocala.
Yeah, same AOR playlist from back then. But they had one little, JU had one little station, WFIN, I think. But it was like you could hear it across the street.
Yeah,
that was about it. It wasn't, but yeah, Jacksonville was very insular and not a lot of places to play. And but I mean, that was any city around the country back then. But yeah, you just go to work every day. Work your 9-to-5 job and play music at night and the weekends. If you can play a gig out every once in a while, that was great. The big thing back then was, man, we got to make a demo, get a demo made, make a demo, go to a studio. It used to be Key Studio down there on right there at Edison and McDuff in the 80s. I think they were open up till the early 90s, I think, or something like that. But there's Magnum Alfred studio. There's a few studios around town back then with few tracks to work with.
That's fun,
But,
man. Edison McDuff, that's over kind of by the old dog track.
Yeah, right down the street from it.
Dog track's a school now, and I taught there for 4 years.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I used to live
I
over.
used to work at the dog track back in high
Really?
school. Yeah, and the
Sorry for folks listening. We're gonna go on. Give us a minute. We'll get back to the music.
But it's fun. The funny thing about working at a dog track, I think, is the first thing when you tell somebody that is they say, "What do you do? Clean up dog shit?" It's like, no, I actually work in the catering department, washing dishes, or at that point, pots and pans. But yeah, that same area right there.
That's
Sorry,
so wild. No, I love it. But I just think that's so interesting to me because I taught in that building, up until 5 years ago. How long have I been in Orlando? 4 years, I guess. 5 years. Up until 5 years ago, I taught in that building, and that's the same building that you many years earlier were washing dishes, and I was teaching middle school. I just think that's fascinating to me.
That's really funny. I had no idea what it was now there, or even if they do the dog track anymore.
No, the dog track itself is the track for kids to run around.
Oh wow.
Yeah, pretty wild, man. So we can get back to we can get back on the track. I was listening. One of the fun things about going, like I said, doing this research was going back and when Hallowed Ground came out, I had it on compact disc, and that record, I love that record. I still love that record, and I hadn't listened to it in a while though. So it was super fun to do this research because I went back and listened to it and realized how much I loved the discovery of those songs. Like I said, hearing you play that unique sound that you have, and hearing them come together in that way. And then I was going through, Land of Trembling Earth and then Wild Blue Iris, your most recent studio record. And when I was listening to all three, again, the essence comes through in all three. The Daryl Hance-ness, right? The whatever that thing is you have where with your guitar playing and your writing comes through. But they sonically, as I listen to all three of them, they sonically are nuanced and different. And I thought that was really interesting to listen to them in a row as much as I did, because you maintain that same essence. But I wonder how much of a difference there was in approach to each record for you.
Well, the first one was a shot in the dark. I used the band, 3-piece, me, Anthony Cole, and Jacksonville guy here, Shane Platten on bass, and went in the studio.
For folks listening, sorry, just for context, like Anthony Cole was in Mofro, and he's played with a whole bunch of different folks and is very well respected musician in Florida. Yeah,
he's a shit.
Yeah, that's what everybody says.
I miss hanging out with him. He's fun.
Yeah, I think I don't want to misquote Kevin Maines, but I think his what he said, and for folks listening to this show know Kev because he's been on the show and I talk about him a lot. But I think he said that Anthony Cole is one of the 2 or 3 best musicians he's ever been around. He's just amazing.
He can play. He can make music with a toaster. So.
All right. So anyway, it's the 3 of you guys.
Yeah, and we just banged it out in the studio, and 3-piece kind of live. Last couple tracks I did solo myself, and then mixed it at another studio like Blackbird up there in Nashville. And the second one, I recorded on my own. Recorded all the instruments on my own. Just because I had the time to do it, and actually recorded at JJ's house. At that time he only lived about 5 miles from me, and he had a studio set up out in his egg room, and I go over there, and I spent about a year or so doing that. Played all I think I got him to overdub a couple of things like a little organ and sing backup on a couple of songs, but every sound other than that, every sound on it I made. And that was kind of trying, but And then the Wild Blue Iris is kind of a bit of a blend. A lot of it's just me, and then Cameron Weeks, the drummer I was playing with at that time, plays on 6 tracks. And then I had another guy, Reed Turchie, play slide guitar on a couple tracks. And then the latest album I've been working on, or I was working on it until about 3 years ago. And then the computer shit in the bed. So it's kind of been on the back burner since. And plus I'm involved with other projects, house projects, and doing other stuff. But that one is again, I'm playing all the instruments, and B. Gale plays the drums on that. And I've got about, I don't know, a couple weeks work. Once I get back into a couple weeks work to finish it up, and hopefully get that out at some point in my lifetime. But kind of moving in right now to go to what I call my Beatles phase, where I'm trying to get it where I can record here at the house. It's pretty close to that. Or actually, I'm going to do some recording here. It's just the whole mixing thing. So I'm hoping to get that sorted out pretty soon. And then I've got about 8 or 10 more albums worth of material. If I want to sit down and do that, I want to finish up this album I got on the back burner. And there's a couple more I kind of got, floating around in the brain there. So I got a lot of, recording to do. So I'm not sure how much live playing on we do coming up shortly, which kind of lends itself into what you were talking about with the live band earlier. And part of it is, since I've been playing, the past, 6, 7, 10 years now, I've never really had a lineup to coalesce into like a lineup that goes out and tours regularly, outside of playing as a 2-piece with Cameron and B at different times. And hopefully I can get back. I got a little bit into that before COVID hit. I was kind of a little bit on the comeback trail, and I recorded a live album with a band in the bass player's living room down there in St. Augustine. It's called Live at Rob's Place. And but about the time I got rolling, that COVID hit, so that changed everybody's plan. So just been kind of spending the last year fumbling around trying to figure things out like everybody else. But that's the basic approach. I mean, ideally, I'd love to go into a studio with a band and lay everything down and go out on tour. But it's easier just to say that than it is kind of to do that. And a lot of it, I'm so quick to, because I engineer and record myself, and now I'll be mixing myself. So it's like I can just kind of do everything myself. And then more than likely, once I get the drum tracks, get everything laid out, I have B to come in and play drums over whatever I do, or another drummer to kind of fancy it up a bit, maybe have a guest or two here and there. But that's kind of the way I've been working now.
So it sounds like, of those different approaches, the thing you're most comfortable with is kind of you doing most everything. Is that accurate?
Yeah. It's especially with the band situation, people like to get paid, including me. And, so sometimes and I live out in the middle. I live out in the sticks. Nobody. It's hard to get people out here sometimes. And scheduling stuff. So it's a little tricky sometimes. And I don't exactly live in a musical center like a Austin or Atlanta or a place like that, where there's a little bit more people to choose from. Orlando is a great place, and so is Tampa. Jacksonville's pretty good now, but everything's kind of out toward the beach and more in town, and like down in St. Augustine, I'm like out here in the sticks. But more so now, I'm kind of more focused on what can I do with recording wise to get some of these albums out, because I'm 52. I'll be 53 this year. So if I got 10 albums worth of stuff, I better get to work.
Yeah. I think that's that number totally blew my mind when you said that. because
Yeah.
are those just you mentioned bouncing around in your head. Are those just ideas bouncing around in your head? Or are those like demos or like things written down?
Most of them are already demoed out.
Wow.
I would swing around and show you this thing here. I got them all I had to go through about a year ago and start writing everything down, make sure I didn't lose anything. And then every
Like
once in a while,
that's like pen to paper or
oh, no, I just write the titles down so I keep track of them.
oh, okay.
Get shit up here floating around your head and make you crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then I'm kind of digging this live streaming thing. I've kind of put it on the live streaming on the back burner just for the time being because I'm doing some other stuff. It kind of takes I got up to I've done about 50 or 60 of them in the past year.
Wow.
And I got it when I got the setup kind of fine tuned, run it through everything through a mixer, and got the production right. I got about 26 episodes off and between last August and about a month ago.
Mm-hmm.
But I've kind of put that on the back burner because I'm trying to upgrade the production a little bit. And so I got to do a little construction work and some other bells and whistles and iron some things out. And I might do another one pretty soon.
We've talked about that on the show a little bit recently. Like I've been asking people because I think so when the streaming thing first happened, because everybody was home, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody kind of like you mentioned production. It was just sort of like people into their phone, or there was like, it was kind of garbage, but we didn't care because we got to see music and everybody was craving it and people needed an outlet. But do you think there's anything for you that endures in that, whether it be you continuing to live stream if things ever return to normal, or even if not, if it becomes, do you think there's some sort of way to like continue, like make your record and support the record kind of virtually? Like, do you
yeah,
into that?
I've not to cut you off. Did you have more?
No, that's it. That's it. That's it.
I started to get it and really seriously considering live streaming about 5 years ago when it first kind of started popping up on Facebook, and it's been on YouTube and stuff, but the technology just kind of was sort of there. But and I started dabbling to it, and then got downloaded the OBS software and kind of went gung-ho with it about 5 years ago. But I didn't get all the way there, and I went back to recording a record. Mm-hmm. Excuse me. But when the COVID hit last year, I was like, okay, now's my time to figure it out. And that's when I started out streaming on the phone just so I could get going, and then started digging into the OBS and getting everything through a mixer, and getting the using the chroma, whatever it is, where you get to put a picture up behind you, scene up behind you. Yeah. I forget what it's called. Some kind of app on there or plug in. But anyway, just to put a virtual background behind you and then go from there just so I could get up and run. And I kind of got it figured out. And going forward, my whole idea the past 4 years I've been thinking about it is to have like a rig where I take it on the road or to gigs to live stream. Maybe not live stream every gig, but try to work it in there, and do a mix of it all, because it's just like the whole thing. Everybody in the world commuting 2 hours to and from work every day. Mm-hmm. It's like, how long can that go on?
Yeah.
It's, just, it's not sustainable in no way, shape, or form. It's just over the past 100 years, boom, this is where we're at.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing, just like touring, it's just like, and there's so many people on the world. There's so many people touring. There's so many bands nowadays. It's just, the world is just kind of shrinking. Mm-hmm. So to me, is like, that's where kind of live streaming come in. You can just kind of make anything out of it you want to. I've been considering or kind of working toward doing actual shows here at the house and live streaming them, small, intimate things.
Yeah.
And then, but it all just depends on how quick I can get, not quick I can get together. It just takes time to kind of build it all, making the production cool and, having the money to buy this piece, to do that, and just one piece at a time. But that's kind of where I'm looking at. Not saying I'm never going to tour or anything
you're
like
in
that
good
again.
company, bud. You can,
Yeah. So,
you can say I ain't never. Nobody's gonna judge you here.
Yeah. But I'm definitely looking at it as like a way to make it work. Just being able to push a button, coming here in this room and push a button and be able to reach a potential worldwide audience.
Yep,
is great. If you're, if the hardest thing for me is to figure out is these algorithm things and that and Facebook and all these other apps platform putting the brakes on you. Yeah. Especially when you're not paying them. But for instance, I was talking about what you was talking about earlier with following your intuition and stuff. Mm-hmm. And I said, during one of my streams, I said, following your gut, listen to your gut. And my live stream got removed from Facebook because I'm sure that it says they thought I said gun, which is kind of weird, man. It's just because the warning they give me back or whatever, said it had that, it not gun in it, but had that, it was directed toward that type of stuff. So it's like, he's like, that's weird. Given they got to figure out their algorithms and stuff, and they probably just had the sensitivity turned up too high on it, and then they got to dial it back or something. But it's getting a little weird out there.
That's a wild point. I quit Facebook. The Marinade's not on there at all, and I'm not personally on there at all. And I quit it for a lot of reasons, but one of the things that happened that made me go like, man, fuck these people, is I tried to put up an ad. I had Trey Crowder on the show, the comedian, and he
I know you're talking about,
right, and he self-applies the term liberal redneck. Like that's what it's called, the well-read tour that he and his comedy partners do. And so I had an ad. I tried to give them money and promote that episode because people love that episode. And I forget, it was like the anniversary of it or something. And I got a message back. They rejected it. And I got a message back saying that, this violates our terms of service. And all it said was like, here's, episode whatever with the liberal redneck. And the reason why they said was that it was like, promoting hate or something like that.
Yeah.
And then if Trey, like he's the opposite of promoting hate. And if you know me, I'm the opposite of promoting hate, right? And so it's just like, oh, Jesus Christ, man. Fuck y'all. So I quit.
It's crazy, man. The world's a crazy place now. People are so triggered. And it's like I mean, if you go back through and read the lyrics to what I write, there's only one conclusion you can come to, and it's not racist, it's not this, it's not that. It's like basically, hey, we're all one in love, blah blah. This kind of thing. Raising your spiritual vibration, that whole thing. Just like all the bands I love, like all the music I love, and then you get people. I write these things, these posts on. I have the past few years just these philosophical observings, like what stuff George Carlin would do, or Bill Hicks, or anybody like that. Just philosophical life observations, and then you get people who they run it through their filter in their head, and they get offended because they think it means this. And it's like, no, it doesn't mean that at all. I don't know where the fuck you got that from, but whatever. And people like, they're so busy applying labels and it's crazy
because there's no dialogue there, right? That's the big thing. Like I don't engage. I love Twitter, and I try to keep it as positive as possible. Today I posted something about DeSantis because it was just like, Jesus Christ, like what today was just crazy for folks listening. Today was the day that he signed this voter restriction bill and only allowed Fox News to cover it and ban local media from covering it. It was just like, this is the shit that like we should all be agreeing on, this isn't some sort of political thing I'm saying. I don't think it's just sort of like, this is just basic human decency that we should have, people should be able to vote. And the press should be able to cover it, and all these things that I feel like we shouldn't debate. But anyway, on Twitter, I don't really engage a lot in debates like that. Like if someone is going to respond to that, and maybe they have while we're having this conversation, and they say something negative, I'm not really going to go back at them. I may just say something, diplomatic back to them. But but the reason why I try not to engage that way, and I haven't for a long time, really, even back in Facebook when I had it, I would post things every once in a while and get a reaction. And I wasn't looking for a reaction, but I tried not to respond too much because that's not a real dialogue.
It's not. You can't convey emotion or anything like that in these short, paragraphs. And the problem with it, and I found this out, too, on there. I did it for kind of to engage people and just kind of see how different people think and kind of understand where people are coming from. But you get all into these like little side, if you post one thing, one paragraph, two paragraph, and then you in it saying how you feel, and then you get 10 other people chiming in at the same time. You get off in all these side conversations and the point gets lost, and you end up talking about this other bullshit that has nothing to do with the original topic. You just can't stay on point with it. It's just ridiculous. And I think I'm almost thinking that, something, this social media was designed to do that, just to give, let's make something for people to engage in where they can just argue with one another. Brilliant.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
you're in charge.
It does give people a voice is the positive part of it. And the negative part of that, of course, is that there's not a dialogue. You mentioned earlier, you've mentioned throughout this conversation, a few influences on your music. What about things you're consuming now? Like what has you fired? It could be not just music, but maybe TV or books or like art that right now has you fired up.
Oh boy. That's a hard one. I've went back and listened to a lot of the early Van Halen stuff, the first 5 albums. I got into that a lot. Going back, listening to like the older Led Zeppelin albums and stuff that I liked when I was younger, but dismissed once I got into blues and funk and all that world, and then kind of visiting it, and then kind of some stuff you're like, ooh, yeah, I don't know why I like that. But then other stuff you come back and it's like, wow, that's great. Like the old the 70s Aerosmith stuff is like that. The early Van Halen stuff is like that.
That Aerosmith stuff doesn't get enough credit. I feel like people miss it so easily.
Yeah, that album, I always love that album, Rocks, man.
Yeah.
Toys in the Attic is good too, man. But Rocks just has this vibe to it. Even though some of the songs on Toys in the Attic are probably better songs, the vibe on that album, it's it's kind of like Exile on Main Street, but just like menacing or something, in the way not musically, but in the way it just sounds like one cohesive album,
Yeah.
It's just like that. But
hold on just a second. I'm so sorry. We have 2 dogs and one of them always lets me know when the other one's fucking up. So I came in here to let me know that. I'll be right back. I'm so sorry.
Okay. I'll be right here.
She's such a snitch. All he did was grab a pillow, but she was like, I know he's gonna tear that pillow up if Dad didn't come stop him.
Oh man. The art. Yeah, I'm good. That's I kind of going back through some of the older classic rock stuff, and
that's fun. That's a fun dive.
Past few days, I've been listening to some of the late '80s and early '90s U2 stuff, like the Joshua Tree, and which is probably one of my, Joshua Tree is probably my. It's definitely my top 5, if not my favorite album of all time.
It's amazing,
and none of their other albums are in my top, but that's a great album. That's the album that made me like them, and Unforgettable Fire is good. Yeah. And I tell you, Edge is like super underrated. He doesn't play hot licks. It's like, you need to go back and listen. You need to go back and listen again, man. That stuff back then.
So good, man.
Oh my God.
I play War probably like once a month. I just love that record.
Yeah, I do too. That's another great one too. But around here, I'm into like a lot of building stuff right now. Just like I'm putting up, I've accumulated a lot of used privacy fence and odds and ends and bricks and this and that and the other thing. I'm just trying to build stuff, make the house around here nicer and everything. Doing a lot of clearing of I got about it's right at an acre. I've been out here 17 years, about 30 miles west of Jacksonville, out here in the middle of the woods. Okay. But I've kind of let it grow up into a jungle, and I'm kind of trying to tame the jungle back a little bit now. It's getting a little crazy.
Yeah.
But that's where a lot of my energy is going right now. So I guess my art now is kind of nature.
Are those like
stuff and
Frankenstein sculptures that you're making, or are you like building functional stuff? Or
no, functional stuff. Not a lot. Or I just like trying to make the house nice again. It's like a single wide, like a 1990 single wide trailer that I've basically almost taken apart and put everything, kind of build it back in together and fixing this, re-insulating it, putting new ductwork in it and fixing the electric, doing this and that and the other thing. It's just one, like anybody else's house. You're always working on something.
I love that about my house. I love that I always have something to do, and it keeps me, anytime I think that I might have like a chance to just sleep in and chill or whatever, there's something, and
I'm trying to get everything wrapped up around here and some loose ends tied up with all these projects I got on so I can get back into making music, I've been kind of out of it for a while, kind of dabbling back into it, for a little bit. And then, I kind of get into it pretty good until last year when the COVID popped up.
I think that's interesting, man. That balance between all anytime you're a creative person, striking the balance is constant. And it sounds like for you, it's not a problem of creating. It sounds like if you have so many ideas and so many things that you want to create, if you just have the time to do it, you'll do it. And of course, resources are part of it too, right? Like the things that you want to do, you need a certain number of resources to be able to put that into motion. You get kind of hamstrung. If you don't have the time resources, the monetary resources, the human capital, the emotional capital, all that stuff. But it sounds like you don't really have a problem writing or playing. It's just a matter of finding all of those pieces.
And I've got, I don't have a lot of storage space, but I got a lot of shit stuffed everywhere. So it's kind of like sorting through it. And one thing I have done over the past 3 months is just went through everything I own and tried, let me see what I got here that I can use instead of, trying to, how you get in the thing where you're going along. Okay, I need this piece. Okay. So, a few weeks later, I need this piece. I need this piece. And you have a tendency to, everything you already have goes back in the storage space, and you don't end up using it all. So I'm just kind of taking inventory of everything. Okay, what do I have that I can make work without having to get anything else? Kind of more of that approach. Kind of going the other way with it. Too many sorting through the bells and whistles and seeing what I got. One thing is good is I fired up my computer that I thought in my 2005 computer that I thought was on its way out about 10 or 12 years ago, and kind of revamped it and figured out, hey, this works great. So,
nice.
So the Pro Tool still works on it. So
is there anything on there, like any ideas or anything that you found that you were like, oh shit, I forgot about this one?
Some stuff, but most of that stuff I got on hard drives scattered about, but I try to get everything off there because I got a pretty good amount of space on it. So I've been using it for like a backup drive, but I was like, something, let me get everything off here and just start using this thing again, because it still works. And it has never been on the internet, which is probably why it still works. Because then Apple can't download their sabotage software on it. You need a new computer.
Yep.
And all these other, software people that, download their, and all these other entities that download stuff onto your computer.
Yeah.
To sabotage
and track.
Yeah.
Man, from seeing you play with this Jacksonville Symphony Orchestra to seeing you at Mojo Barbecue in Avondale to here, I am just amazed that I got to have this conversation, and it did not disappoint. I really appreciate this, Daryl. This was so much fun.
Oh, good, man. Thanks, man. Yeah, I've had fun, man. It's good talking to you.
Good.
It's a fun podcast here.
Good. That's the goal.
Here we are together until our living ends. Don't ever want to leave here. Hope we'll always be around. Don't ever want to leave here. Hope we'll always be around.
Daryl Hance, y'all. Thank you so much, Daryl. What a pleasure. Thank all of you for listening. This was too much fun. DarylHance.com for all things Daryl, including physical copies of his wonderful records. MarinadePodcast.com for all things The Marinade, including written pieces, concert photography, Marinade swag, and more. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter. Tell a friend about the show. Leave a rating and review on your podcast app. These are all free, easy ways to support what we're doing. Above all else, we just appreciate you listening. If you really enjoy this thing and can swing it, please consider joining our Patreon community, where for just a few bucks a month, you can gain access to exclusive content like our show Jason's Journey, where I talk about the moments that shape my creative life. I also give a little window into the process of making the Marinade. Sometimes I post episodes early. Sometimes I post the video from the episode. If it's a Zoom call, there's just fun stuff over there, and it's a deeper way to connect with the show. So if you can swing it, that would be great. But again, above all, just keep listening and spreading the word. I appreciate every single one of you who listens. All right, y'all, it's time for what I'm getting down on, the segment of the show where I talk about the art that is inspiring me at the moment. The record I have on repeat is Malcolm Holcomb's forthcoming record, Tricks of the Trade. There is three song run on this album that just lays me out. I'm going to be sure to keep you updated about it on social media when it comes out, and I'm going to reach out. I did reach out in hopes that I can get Malcolm on the show. In the meantime, check out Malcolm's other work. I've also revisited a band that I had not listened to in years, Holopaw. To my knowledge, they haven't released any music in several years, but I loved them, and the music holds up. I don't remember. Yes, I do. The reason why I thought of Holopaw is because I was holding my dog's paw. He's got this new thing where he wants you to hold his paw, and I was holding Conundrum's paw, and I just Holopaw and holding paw. There's something about the moment that made me think of the band, and then I thought that my partner Chris would enjoy them, and I didn't know if she'd listened to them, and she hadn't. So we started listening, and that's where I got back to Holopaw. They're from Gainesville. Tom Petty, Hot Water Music Against Me, all the great tradition of Gainesville, Florida. Not that those things are all the same, but you get it. Check out Holopaw if you have not already, or if, like me, you haven't in years. And I'll do some more research, see what those guys are up to. Thank you again, Daryl. Thank all of you for listening. I am so grateful for your time and energy. Until next time, go out and create something. Cheers, y'all.